This month on Focus Black Oklahoma, join us as we highlight the inauguration of Monroe Nichols as Tulsa's 41st mayor.
Listen to an excerpt from a newly released Audible documentary, Tribal Justice: The Struggle for Black Rights on Native Land, reported and written by 2 award-winning indigenous journalists.
Discuss the medical gaslighting that interferes with diagnosis and treatment of menopause in women.
And discover Oklahoma's Black Rodeos with the 3rd installment of our 3-part series. All of this and more on Focus Black Oklahoma.
Focus Black Oklahoma is sponsored by the Black Church Traditions and African American Faith Life program at Phillips Seminary, offering a master's degree in social justice online and in person. Learn more at wherefaithleads.com.
This is Focus Black Oklahoma. I'm Kuma Roberts.
And I'm Jacob Littlebear.
In November, Monroe Nichols was elected Tulsa's first black mayor. On December 2nd, Nichols was sworn into office at the Cox Business Convention Center, where he outlined his vision for the city over the next 2 years. Here's Cory Ross with more.
What's going on in your city? Black Oklahoma mind. What's going on in your city?
Faith without works is dead. Faith must be put into action to be beneficial to others. That was the theme of the inauguration of Tulsa's newest mayor, Monroe Nichols. A diverse group of speakers and community leaders spoke about their plans for the future. This local election was won on one issue: the plight of the unhoused and how the homelessness issue affects every community. Councilor Anthony Archie II of District 2 was first to share how he plans to end homelessness in Tulsa.
Housing is a human right. We've got to provide a space in which folks have stable and affordable housing. And so, I've met with a number of developers. We need to, as a city council, what we can do, cut some of the permitting, some of the regulations, create an environment in which builders want to build. We want to use some of the $75 million that we've allocated for from our 3H task force to get boots on the ground, to get shovels in the dirt, and so that housing can go up and our most needy can access it.
Vanessa Hall Harper, District 1 councilor, was sworn in for the 5th time. She's seen a change nationally and locally and noted that without us all working together, nothing can get done.
I'm hopeful. I'm going to always say I'm hopeful, right? Because I wouldn't be running if I wasn't hopeful. But I always reserve my final comments, and I'll just say, we'll see. That was one of the stages Mama used to tell me, we'll see, Mama, can I go? We'll see. It used to make me mad, but now I use it all the time.
The historic election of the city's first black mayor was balanced by the re-election of Donald Trump. Councilor Hall Harper spoke to this moment.
Government is not dictated by one person, from the president down to city council and to the mayor. And so we have to come together, work together, be empathetic and understand everyone's situations and hopefully make the best decisions.
Also in attendance was Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, Executive Director of the Terrence Crutcher Foundation. The swearing in of Tulsa's first black mayor wasn't only momentous, it comes 8 years after Tulsa and the Crutcher family's lives were changed forever. On September 16, 2016, Terrence Crutcher, an unarmed black man, was murdered by Betty Shelby, a patrol officer for the Tulsa Police Department. Asked how this election felt for her, with tears in her eyes, she expressed raw emotion and hopefulness.
I'm really emotional right now. I never thought in a million years that we would be here, but I believed and I remained hopeful. And as the mayor said, we put in the work, we had the faith, and we know that faith without works is dead. And for 8 years, we continued to do the work.
Dr. Crutcher was also ready to move forward and explain the work that needs to be done.
Well, the work looks like a diverse table. It looks like equity. It looks like inclusion. It looks like the people closest to the problem being closest to the solutions and having their voices centered and heard and embedded throughout every aspect of the decision-making process. That's what it looks like.
One aspect of the new administration and its initiatives is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Dr. Crutcher pointed out that the goal is for every Tulsan to feel heard. Mayor Nichols spoke about Tulsa's relationship with tribal nations.
We can it's in part like us really taking a different approach. I will say that I do believe Mayor Biden has a deep respect for our tribal nations. I think now as we're knowing what it means to be on a reservation, that relationship we have to take the next big step. And so I've talked about throughout the whole campaign for 16 months, what does that mean for us to work more closely with the tribe and how we meet the needs around education, homelessness, or housing, and certainly public safety. Those comments today were directed there, and I thought it was very appropriate as the city that's the largest in the country that's all on the Indian reservation, that the Indian Club come and certainly wrap their arms around this administration as we work together towards that future.
Joe Deere, Cherokee Nation tribal counselor, commented on the commitment of Mayor Nichols to always include tribal nations in decision-making and making sure that there is always a seat at the table for Native American citizens.
To watch his commitment and progress on what he's doing with tribal nations is very important to us as indigenous people, especially since the McGirt case and we got our jurisdiction back. To watch somebody follow through with it and say it in public, not behind the scenes, not on social media, is a big movement. So that praise will go to Monroe for being a leader and the first black mayor and making things move forward. And we are very appreciative of that and honor him. And congratulations to him today.
Nichols wasn't the only mayor in attendance. Former Mayor G.T. Bynum spoke about his relationship with the new mayor, the transition to a new government, and what is next for him.
Mayor Nichols and I both had a commitment from the very beginning to work together closely. I made the day after the election, I sent a notice out to all city employees to give him whatever help and support he needs to be successful. We got him set up in an office and have just provided him anything he needed. And one of the things I admire about him is that he didn't make the campaign about himself. He made it about Tulsa and what we need to do to address our greatest challenges. And he has that spirit of really aiming high and wanting to be ambitious as a city. So for all of that, I'm very excited. His son is one of my son's best friends, and so I was over here taking pictures of the mayor and Gavin up there during his swearing in so I can send them to my kid. It's just a wonderful day for Tulsa.
As the former mayor transitions to his new role as vice president of St. Francis Health System, the new mayor is focused on Tulsa. As the saying goes, all politics is local.
What we're going to focus on is solving problems, addressing issues, and make sure that Tulsa comes out on the other side of whatever's going to happen nationally better than any other city in the country, and that's what we're going to work on.
Leslie Benningfield Randall, also known as Mother Randall, was 6 years old when the Tulsa Race Massacre took place. Now at 110, she was in attendance to witness a different kind of history. When asked how she felt, her response was simple and to the point.
Yes, we need that.
Mayor Nichols ended his remarks by saying, "The time for faith is over. It's now time to get to work." With faith and energy renewed, it was clear that Mayor Nichols and every elected official plan to approach the work of today with optimism and a deep-seated belief in the potential for a brighter future. For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Cory Ross in Tulsa.
In the fall of 2020, Michael Hill, a black citizen of the Cherokee Nation, woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone banging on the windows of his home. He called police for help, but the police arrested Michael in his own front yard. When trying to get his case heard in tribal court, he was rejected because though he has tribal citizenship, he has no blood quantum and by federal law is not legally an Indian. His story is told in a newly released Audible original documentary called Tribal Justice: The Struggle for Black Rights on Native Land, reported and written by two award-winning indigenous journalists, Allison Herrera and Adreanna Rodriguez. The following excerpt is the third installment of FBO's broadcast of the documentary.
So, the federal government created categories for people, including some who were considered Indian by blood, and categories for freedmen, who weren't considered Indian by blood, but were entitled to citizenship and a land allotment. But the problem with those roles is that Black citizens who were singled out for not being Indian by blood, some of them did have Native mothers and fathers, but were still put on a separate role. And this had real consequences.
street before Number 5. At the next stop sign, turn right.
Our producer Adreanna Rodriguez and I are driving to Michael's home in Okmulgee. Okmulgee is a small city in eastern Oklahoma, about a 45-minute drive from Tulsa. It's the capital of the Muskogee Nation. We're here to meet Michael, a little more than 3 years after the incident with the police that changed his life. He lives in a large house on an overlook where you can see the sunset and the Oklahoma landscape for miles.
They've got the door open.
Oh, okay.
We thought it was you whistling, but it's actually just it's your door camera.
Michael is a big guy, easily over 6 foot and soft-spoken. His living room is inviting and adorned with family photos of his children and pictures of basketball camp.
Is this your daughter?
That's my oldest daughter and my little girl.
While Michael's pointing out photos, his youngest daughter, Taylor, steps out to say hello.
What's your name?
Taylor.
Taylor. Do you play basketball?
Yeah.
Taylor is a little shy, like her father. She sticks close to her dad during our visit.
This is what she wants, a big 6-year-old sitting in her dad's lap.
I think she's just being a big baby right now. And that picture over there is a basketball camp that I done in 2020? 21. That was my first annual McKell Parker basketball camp.
Michael created the basketball camp in honor of his late brother, Mikkel, who was robbed and murdered in 2016 after winning a jackpot at the local casino. Diana remembered what a good person he was.
He'd do anything for anybody. He'd give him a shirt off his back, and he had several times from a little boy up until he got taken away.
Mikkel was young, a father of 5 children, with a bright future.
He had been at the One First Casino. He had been there maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks. He was trying to win money that, from what I was told by him and other people that went to the casino, he always hit jackpots.
One night, after an evening out at the Okmulgee Casino, Mikkel gave a ride home to 2 people he'd been chatting with that night. He never made it home. Police found him shot in his car. He'd been robbed and left for dead.
So when I got the call that night about his murder, my daughter called me. It was about 3-something in the morning. And I said, hello, and I heard her crying. She just kept saying, Mama, Mama, Mikkel, Mikkel, Mikkel. And I could hear it in her voice.
On top of the grief, the family spent more than 5 years dealing with court proceedings around his death. Now with Michael's case, they're dealing with the system from a different side. Michael and his mom, Diana, are close.
Michael is a very quiet guy, laid back. He's a good-hearted person.
She's been to nearly every court hearing, and that's a true commitment. Since the night Michael called 911 for help where he was tased and arrested outside his own home, he's had more than 20 appearances in court. The charges he's facing: assault and battery on an officer, which is a felony, assault and battery on the woman he shoved, resisting arrest, and misuse of 911. Once word of his arrest started spreading around town, Michael's reputation suffered.
I was the PE and health teacher at the school, and when I got arrested, the kids were passing my mugshot around the school.
They were sending it around on Snapchat with the caption, "Free Coach Mike." He ultimately lost his job coaching basketball and teaching at the local high school. He felt devastated and ashamed. He says his PTSD grew worse and he stopped going outside. Michael's mom watched as her son lost his grip on the life he'd been trying to build.
So when it happened to him, it kind of affected him because he didn't ever think that it would happen to him, you know.
She tried to keep his spirits up.
I just couldn't believe it. But I'm like, well, we're going to do whatever we got to do. I don't care if it drained my account, whatever. I'm doing everything. I'm going to stand strong and fight with you.
Michael has requested to get his case dismissed in state court and heard in tribal or federal court because of his tribal citizenship status. But the court has said no. Chapter 2: The Light Horse. Light Horse are the tribal police force who have the power to issue traffic tickets and arrest people for crimes committed within the Muskogee Nation's reservation boundaries.
B-10-6.
Go ahead. What do you need?
Can you give me 21 when you're available?
Yeah, just a second. That's one of my officers.
That's Sergeant Lyndon Spears. I rode along with him on a chilly evening last winter. Spears has been on the job as a Light Horse police officer with the Muskogee Nation for 7 years. This is the police force Adreanna, Michael's mom, thought would come if he called 911. Light Horse and other tribal police do the same things that any other city or state police officer does. And Muskogee Nation recently updated their criminal and civil codes to match Oklahoma laws. Light Horse are employed by the tribe, and according to Sergeant Spears, a lot of times Native people in the community feel more comfortable talking to them because they have the same background and have some of the same cultural knowledge. Sergeant Spears told me he wanted the chance to work for his own community.
It's more of a family atmosphere, like you're not just a individual that works for the tribe. They actually treat you like you're a member of their family. And that, to me, is part of the culture that our natives, that's the way I grew up. It didn't matter if you're actually blood related. If you were a part of the family, you're a part of the family. And that's how they treat you at this department, whether you're native or not.
Would you like to pitch a story to FBO?
Or work with us as a correspondent?
Please email us at contact@focusblackoklahoma.com.
Or call 918-807-3886.
A case I mentioned earlier called McGirt v. Oklahoma reshaped law enforcement and prosecutorial power in Oklahoma in a very big way. After that decision, Muskogee Nation Light Horse Police had expanded their jurisdiction over a larger area of eastern Oklahoma. Before McGirt was decided, the Okmulgee Police Department would have been in charge, and Adreanna would not have been asking if Michael and his friend had called Light Horse Police. Light Horse would have had limited authority there before July of 2020. Now they have shared authority. That's because of the McGirt decision. The case centered on Jim C. McGirt, a Seminole man who was accused and convicted of sexually abusing a child. McGirt decided to challenge the conviction and started digging. He looked at the treaties. He looked at congressional documents, trying to find clarity on the relationship between the Muskogee Nation's reservation boundaries and the state of Oklahoma. Eventually, the case got to the Supreme Court. Here's part of the argument his attorney made there.
The Creek Nation had a reservation. The relevant treaties reserved the lands from sale and solemnly guaranteed the lands for the Creek to govern. The text of both treaties and statutes expressly identified the Creek land as a reservation. Nothing more was needed.
The question he was trying to answer, did Congress do away with or disestablish the Muskogee Nation's reservation when Oklahoma became a state? Robert Gifford, a Cherokee Nation citizen and attorney who practices federal Indian law, says McGirt's lawyer figured out that despite all the laws that passed during statehood in 1907,
all of that at the end of the day still didn't matter because you still had to go back to the original question. When did Congress disestablish the reservations? They didn't.
Congress never disestablished or did away with the Muskogee Nation's reservation, a reservation they agreed to in the post-Civil War treaty we told you about earlier.
The McGirt decision came down to that the Muskogee Creek Reservation had not been disestablished. Again, only Congress can do that.
In July of 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that the state of Oklahoma had been ignoring the sovereignty and the jurisdiction of the Muskogee Nation since statehood. The McGirt decision said Congress never did away with the Muskogee Nation's reservation and that the powers that go along with having that reservation stand.
Congress did not transfer criminal jurisdiction to Oklahoma.
One of those powers was the ability to enforce its own laws and operate its own court system. The ruling didn't just apply to the Muskogee Nation. 4 years later, several tribal nations in Oklahoma, including the Cherokee, have used it to also get their reservations reaffirmed. By 2024, almost half the state of Oklahoma, including the entire city of Tulsa, is considered Indian country. But just because the city of Tulsa is officially tribal territory, it doesn't mean all non-Native people have had to leave. It's still a place where a lot of non-Native people live. You still have city police. So, to handle the complexity, here's how it works. When somebody has a life-threatening emergency or they're in danger, when they call 911, the dispatcher's not going to ask someone their tribal affiliation. They'll send whoever's closest and available, be it light horse or city police. The goal of the dispatcher is to provide help right away in an emergency situation. But at some point during the interaction, the police force that you're under the jurisdiction of, they should become involved in the process of your arrest or your emergency. But before you go to tribal court or Okmulgee County Court, the right entity is supposed to take over. But it's not actually that simple in practice. Because for tribal citizens like Michael who have, quote, no Indian blood because of their freedman status, in the eyes of the Oklahoma state courts, they're not considered Indian. Chapter 3, Blood Quantum. Remember the Dawes rules that put the freedmen on a separate list from the other tribal citizens? They were used to determine the fraught concept of blood quantum, how much Indian blood each person was determined to have. The reason blood quantum still matters in the legal system has to do with two court cases. The first is a case called U.S. v. Rogers, decided in 1846. I wanted to know more about it, so I went to visit Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. of the Cherokee Nation.
Hi,
Hello
Chief.
there.
How are you?
I'm very sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Hello, how are you?
Say Adreanna.
Hey, how are you doing?
How are you doing, Chief? How are you doing?
Chief Hoskin Jr. explained that the Rogers case involved two white men who'd married into the tribe. The Cherokee Nation considered these two men citizens by their own laws.
There was a particular case involving a non-Indian white person who had been considered a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and the United States said, no, that's not an Indian.
William Rogers had allegedly stabbed his brother-in-law to death in Cherokee territory west of Arkansas and was set to be tried in federal court. Rogers argued the U.S. government had no jurisdiction over him because he was a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. The U.S. Supreme Court ultimately decided that Rogers could be tried in federal court because, quote, a white man was a white man and no political affiliation could change this. In other words, even though the Cherokee Nation said he was a citizen, the U.S. government said he was not Indian in the eyes of the U.S. law because of his race. That decision still stands to this day. And it matters for our story because of the second decision, the Major Crimes Act, a law passed 40 years later in 1885.
Medical gaslighting can impact patients with a range of conditions, and some women experiencing menopause are vulnerable. Multiple factors contribute to accurate diagnosis and treatment for a process all women will go through. Here's Francia Allen with details.
Recently, the subject of menopause has been garnering a lot of attention in the media by well-known names in the entertainment business, such as Halle Berry, Oprah Winfrey, and Maria Shriver, all of whom have publicly shared their experiences with menopause, hoping to start a much-needed conversation among women and medical providers who specialize in this field. The goal is to remove the stigma surrounding women's aging process and build community with those who suffer in silence. Menopause impacts every woman differently, and sharing their stories within this type of community provides support, validation, and an exchange of helpful information. Generally, when people discuss women's health, it is more often in regards to reproductive care, which attracts more attention than menopause. Not every woman will have children, but all women will go through menopause, which according to MayoClinic.org is when women stop experiencing menstrual periods for 12 months around age 50. There are 4 stages, which includes premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Although many women are prescribed hormone replacements, they still experience physical symptoms related to these stages that hinder their quality of life. Seeking medical care can become discouraging when treatment methods don't help or doctors are dismissive regarding symptoms. It's even worse when doctors gaslight women into believing they are having a mental health problem when medical professionals can't find an obvious reason for what's happening. Dr. Lisa Mosconi, a neuroscientist, author, and associate professor at Cornell University, is championing the research on women in menopause and the significant impact it has on brain health by conducting brain scans during the different stages. It's a subject matter rarely discussed, but can be instrumental in helping women advocate for themselves with medical and mental health providers. In a recent interview on YouTube titled The Menopause Doctor, This Diet Delays Menopause, Menopause is Shrinking Your Brain, hosted on the diary of his CEO page, Dr. Mosconi describes her research and discusses the symptoms of menopause.
I am Dr. Lisa Mosconi, and I have a PhD in neuroscience and nuclear medicine, which is a branch of radiology. I am the director of the Women's Brain Initiative, and I believe it's fair to say that our team is at the forefront of reproductive neuroscience, or gender neurology, which is the study of how brain health plays out differently in women than in men. And the vast majority of women will experience brain symptoms or neurological symptoms during menopause. So when women say that they're having hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, anxiety, depression, brain fog, 2/3 of all women going through menopause experience brain fog and memory lapses. And those symptoms, yes, they are related to menopause, but they have nothing to do with the ovaries. Those are brain symptoms. They are neurological symptoms that come from the ways that menopause changes the brain.
When asked about her findings after completing many brain scans, Dr. Mosconi discussed how the images revealed a decline in estrogen and shrinkage of white matter, which correlates with women's complaints about brain fog.
This validates what women have been saying for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that there's something happening in their heads, that they feel like their brain is changing, the feeling of, I don't feel like myself anymore, or there's something happening, I have the brain fog, I have mental fatigue. In clinical terms, we say cognitive fatigue, mental fatigue. And this is actually evidence of what women have been saying all along, that menopause changes your brain as surely as it changes your ovaries. And very specifically, it changes the functionality of your brain. And now we've done plenty of studies, obviously I want to do many more, but we've done enough studies to say that menopause also impacts the structure of the brain, the volume of the brain, the connectivity of the brain, blood flow to the brain. So menopause really is a renovation project on the brain. It's a neurologically active state that is associated with measurable and quantifiable changes in a woman's brain.
Dr. Mosconi also goes into further detail about women's severe mental decline and brain fog due to menopause, as well as how women are viewed.
Many women experience what we define clinically as subjective cognitive decline, where you as a woman are aware that your cognitive performance is not as good as it used to be. But if you go for a standard neuropsych evaluation, you're still performing within normal values. And this is good and bad for a number of reasons. Number one is that historically, women would not be taken seriously, right? The overall idea is like, okay, she's going crazy, she's hormonal, she's losing her mind, it's all in your head. I hate that terminology. I got that a lot from even in the scientific community, that those symptoms are kind of made up, or a sign of psychological distress, some kind of psycho-emotional issue, because women have been portrayed as widely emotional.
Dr. Mary Claire Haver is a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist, author, and creator of the Galveston Diet, who also specializes in menopause. She, along with Dr. Mosconi, has spoken out about how doctors do not receive extensive training on menopause in medical school. According to Dr. Haver, most doctors receive between 1 and 3 credit hours in total. This means women are being treated by uninformed medical providers who fail to adequately meet their needs. Dr. Haver also revealed information about the disparaging mentality many doctors have towards menopausal women who frequently complain about their symptoms. In an interview with Marie Forleo on YouTube, titled The Hidden Truth They Don't Want You to Know, she explains the whiny woman concept.
A WW stand for a whiny woman. If she was Caucasian, it was a triple W, WWW.
A whiny white woman?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And she had a constellation of symptoms that you couldn't put your finger on. Some hot flashes. She was gaining weight, maybe some headaches. She was anxious. She was depressed. She was having brain fog. She was tired. There's not much you're going to be able to do for her. Pat her on the knee, tell her it's part of life, and we got to move on. We got to get to these surgeries. You know, that kind of thinking was still pervasive. It's still pervasive today.
Yes.
It's less tolerated. It's not said as openly, but I think that line of thinking is going to take a generation to train out of our physicians.
Dr. Haver offers statistical information on women's health care in a separate YouTube video named We Need to Redefine Women's Health and Women's Health Care. This information was gathered by Accenture and Springboard Enterprises.
Between 2013 to 2024, women's health funding saw a 9% decrease over time. It happens when women's health is understudied, undervalued, and misunderstood. You're going to wait longer for a diagnosis. You're going to have poorer outcomes versus your male counterparts. The medications aren't going to work for you as well. You're more likely to be labeled hysterical or emotional. And even though 400,000 women in the U.S. are transitioning to menopause each year, very few are actually diagnosed or have a delayed diagnosis. Women have significantly higher healthcare spending in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and often delay or don't even go to the clinician because of cost.
While it is fair to say that small steps are being made to improve treatment for women facing menopause, the current medical system continues to alienate women suffering from symptoms such as extreme mental exhaustion, fatigue, low mood, arthritis, and more. The menopausal journey can feel polarizing and lonely due to the unexplained changes happening in the body. However, joining together with other women creates an opportunity for advocacy by challenging the healthcare system and demanding better treatment. Women no longer suffer in silence when they connect with others and see that they're not alone. Women who educate themselves about menopause advocate better because they develop language to help communicate with medical and mental health providers. It also enables them to make more informed decisions about their health care. This is why Drs. Mosconi and Haver continue to advocate for more funding in order to support research, conduct studies, and develop better treatments. Moreover, everyone can participate by requesting their state representatives advocate for laws that help alleviate the stigma of women in menopause. For Focus Black Oklahoma, I'm Francia Allen in Tulsa.
Thanks for joining us on Focus Black Oklahoma. FBO's Sondra Slade reminisces with her aunts Mae Frances Stidham Stevenson, former queen of Oklahoma City's Eastside Roundup Club, and Lovenia Marie Stidham Moham about African-American rodeo culture and its vibrant community, highlighting a rich legacy of horsemanship and family values. This series, as well as a photo exhibition featuring Black Rodeo photos by Jamie and Richard Glisson of ImpressOK Studio, is funded by a grant from Oklahoma Humanities. Please visit rodeo.kosu.org and sign up to receive further details on the February 1st, 2025 exhibition opening event.
When I was 10, I vividly remember being in Taft, Oklahoma, standing on the sidewalk on Main Street, excited to watch the rodeo parade. While my dad and mom were sitting, my younger sister was playing with her dolls. I stood beside them wearing my red cowboy boots, eating popcorn, and keeping an eye out for any loose candy that had been thrown out during the parade. Still dancing to the sound of the Langston Lions band, I could hear the clip-clop of the horses coming. My Uncle Jackie was right behind the guys holding the Eastside Roundup Club sign. I waved to him, he smiled, tipped his white hat to me, and gave his horse named Little Man a tug so that it looked like he was nodding as well. The moment I saw my Aunt Frances on her horse, I smiled as brightly as I could and waved. She saw me and did her rodeo queen wave back and sent me a small kiss. Recently, I sat down with two of my aunties. My aunt May Frances Stidham Stevenson is a member of Eastside Roundup Club. She was the secretary, financial secretary, and their rodeo queen for multiple years from 1982 through 1992. My aunt Lovenia Marie Stidham Moham, a longtime counselor at Douglas High School in Oklahoma City, was also known for the way she could handle and take care of my grandfather's horses. Both are alumni of Langston University. I was able to speak with them about their rodeo experience. What rodeo club were you a member of?
Eastside Roundup Club.
Okay, and that's located where?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. Has it always been Oklahoma City? Has it been?
Yes. They have a arena in Spencer.
Okay. Spencer, Oklahoma. In July of 1975, my Aunt Frances went with her girlfriend to the rodeo at Eastside Arena in Spencer. Intending to just enjoy the rodeo, but a bit more excitement happened prior to getting in. Aunt Frances, tell me about this special rodeo.
Okay, and I was with my girlfriend, which was his wife, and so she had already told me that we wouldn't have to pay. Okay. And so it was another guy working with him at the gate. And she kind of told me about him, that he was a divorcee, and so he approached my window and asked for some money to get in, and I told him I wasn't gonna pay, and he said, "You're not gonna pay?" And he said, "No." I told him, "No, I'm not gonna pay." He said, "Well, you're gonna have to give me your telephone number." Okay. Now I said, "Okay, no problem." But in a rodeo with all those many people, you know, nobody's gonna find you in the rodeo. Okay, there's a couple hundred people in the. Oh, it was, yeah. Okay. Cause with the rodeos back then, the community came, and other riding clubs and all that. So it was a lot of people there. So him finding me in that crowd, no way. But after the rodeo, my girlfriend and I was going to my car and got in the car. And as we were driving out of the arena, this guy was running behind the car, hitting the car. And so we stopped the car, and he wanted to see me later, and I told him yes.
The man my aunt is referring to is my late Uncle Jackie, who was a member of the Eastside Roundup Club. He was also at one time the club parade marshal. When you saw how active he was in the club, did that pique your interest in joining?
Well, after we got married, I decided that I needed to become interested in whatever he was a part of. Okay. And now again, he was a handsome guy, so I had to be there to protect my property.
Protect your property.
Protect my interests. Yeah, but it was fun, and I enjoyed it. The people were friendly. It was like a family-oriented organization. They did things together as a family. Okay. Going to, we had Christmas dinners. We had cookouts. We went on trail rides. Then coming together to put on our annual rodeo, which was like the third weekend of July. It was a 3-day event. So we worked together as a group. Okay. And the more you be around individuals, they get to know you, get to know them. And they put on turkey shoots, whatever the club did, we was all involved in it.
Okay, so back then, the rodeo and rodeo clubs operated more as a community village togetherness.
Right, to bring the community in, and also to develop horse skills, or working with horses and grooming and building family relationships. So it was all about that.
Okay. Now, so in the Eastside Roundup Club, what was your position in the club, the first part?
Okay, being a member first, and then becoming the financial secretary, and then the secretary, and the queen.
Was there a particular uniform that you all wore, or was just the jeans? Because nowadays it's just jeans and a t-shirt, but back then, you tell me.
Okay, they had a white hat,
Okay.
black slacks, and a shirt. Fringe, name on the back. It was neat. And they look good too. They look good.
They had the white shirt, white cowboy shirt.
With fringes.
With black fringe.
Okay. Front and back, name on the back. Okay. And they had a black scarf. I call it a scarf. They had a black jacket, name on the back.
Okay.
Okay. And then the horse had white and black, we call them leggings, on front legs and back legs. And the saddle was black, and then it had white and black trim around it. And see the blacks, there he is.
Okay.
That's what they look like.
That's what they look like.
That's
wait a
what
minute.
they look like.
Now he wore the white hat?
White hat.
White hat, okay.
White hat.
The white hat, was that significant in any form?
No, it was just part of the uniform.
Okay.
It was just part of and they look good in the uniform. Mm-hmm.
And did they wear jeans?
Not unless they were black.
Okay, so they wore slacks.
Slacks.
Okay, that's a different type of cowboy.
Mm-hmm. Now they didn't play when it come to parades.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what mostly they did was ride in parades.
Okay.
Okay, and there was more clubs around than Eastside, but that was the competitive event that each riding club had because they wanted to be first place or second place, whatever. And then the judges at the parade, they judged them according to how well they horse looked, how well they look, how well they had control of the horse, how many riders they had.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now was that a big deal? How many riders they had in regards to?
It was one of the factors that determine where you're first place or second place.
Okay.
But mostly they observe how well you are able to control your horse.
Okay. Now, what type of horses did they have?
Oh, mercy. You name it, they had it.
Okay.
You know, palominos, they had quarter horses, they had walking horses. It was just, a mixture.
Okay. And I know you had mentioned the Tennessee
Walker.
Okay, now how are those special? I remember you had saying something.
Oh, they prance. And they're usually what Eastside had when I came in, a majority of the older men at that time, they had Tennessee Walkers and they were black. Okay, and they step.
Okay.
They step. It's like riding in a Cadillac versus a Volkswagen.
Oh, okay.
It was a comfortable ride. Okay. And they look good stepping. They look good.
They were stepping. The horses the horses were proud stepping too.
Right. And they look good in that uniform. Oh, man. And then they also had their saddle. The saddle was decorated too with a lot of, I say brass. That shine. It looked, and the saddle was black.
How were you vote? Was the rodeo queen voted amongst the group, or is that something you ran for?
It was voted.
Okay.
You were voted as the queen, and you represented the club. When you rode in parades or whatever the club event was, you represented the club. Okay. And quite natural, like queens, you have to smile and you have to look good.
Okay. Did you have a queen wave?
Of course. That queen wave, and you look from side to side and you're smiling. Yes, okay. Yes.
And now, how were you dressed as the rodeo queen representing the Eastside?
Well, I tried to take on the colors of the rodeo, but also had my colors to bring it out. And then quite naturally had, your whole outfit had to match. And then also my horse had to match my colors.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just like you saw those leggings on the horse, I had leggings that matches my outfit.
Okay. Now, was your horse's hair decorated in any way?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband and I groomed the horses. Horses have to look good, just like the queen have to look good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we had bows and...
Well, I didn't give him too many ribbons.
Okay.
I didn't give him.
Just braid his hair.
I didn't give him too many, and his tail was wavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the tail had to be wavy. Now, in regards to the rodeo queens, was there competition between queens of different clubs?
Of course, just like the. Of course. See, when you was riding in a parade, the queen is also judged according to how well she looks, how well she and a horse are together, and how well she's able to control the horse and stuff like that. So she was either first, second place. And they usually do this during the grand entry. After the grand entry, they will call the clubs in, and then they will also recognize the queen, whoever the first place, and you get a trophy or some type of reward.
Okay. And now, when you're the rodeo queen, do you hold that position for more than a year, or do they vote every year?
They vote every year.
They vote every year. Okay.
And they also did that with the officers. After the grand entry, they will call the presidents in of each club, and also call the queens in.
Okay. All right. Now, did you all have to make the horses prance, or you just had to sit there and look pretty?
Just sit there and look pretty.
Okay, and wave to the crowd.
Oh yeah, and during grand entry, usually they call whichever club won first place, they'll call that club in first after the person that's carrying the American flag comes in. Then that club would come in, and then the queen of that club would come in. And quite naturally, as you go around the crowd, you're doing that smiling and waving. Yes, here I am. Y'all look.
Y'all look. Y'all look. So, in the essence of being the queen, you were totally protected.
Right.
And
they would come up if I needed help with the horses or whatever. You know, I can remember one time Jackie had to work and we had a parade. And so I was determined to get there. Now, first time I ever driven a truck with a trailer behind it, but I got mad enough to do that. And when I got to the parade, the guys came over and helped me get the horse out and helped me settle the horse and all of that. So, very protective, again, it's a family-oriented organization. So if one person need help, then they will come. If they got stranded along the roadside, not only did the president pull over, but other people will pull over to help that member, whatever the need was.
So the rodeo was like its own AAA in a way.
They work together as a group.
Know that your aunt, my Aunt Frances, your sister, she joined the Eastside Roundup Club. What did you think about that?
Oh, I thought it was great. I was thinking about trying to join, but I didn't have a horse. And I had asked my husband, and at the time he said we couldn't afford it. So I had talked to this young man about putting a horse on layaway, girl, and I thought I could put him on layaway and pay him out. And my husband said, no, we can't do that. But anyway, the question was, what did I think about a Frances on this horse, girl? I would go to all the parades they would be in, and oh, she was so pretty. She was the queen. And she would dress, she had on from her hat to her boots, to her shirt, everything, and the horse was beautiful. The way I remember that horse was like he had those black and white stockings around his feet. I call them stockings. But, the horse was looking good. The queen was looking good. Oh, girl, they were beautiful.
And as a group with the Eastside Roundup Club, what did you think about them when you saw them come through the parades or at the rodeo?
Oh, girl, I was so proud. Oh, it bring goose pimples. You saw them, all of them were looking good, and that black and white, and those horses was just, the horses were decked out too. But that was a beautiful Roundup Club, girl.
Now, did Aunt Frances tell you that she won being the queen, or did you just happen to see her at a parade, or what was that feeling like?
Well, I just happened, she didn't tell me. Yes, I just happened to see her in a parade, And I was so happy when I saw my sister on that horse, girl. She was fit up. She represented women. She represented all of us up there on that horse, and how she carried herself and how beautiful she was. Yeah, it gave me a sense of pride and make me want to think, oh, one day I can be on that horse like that. I would have loved to ridden in the rodeo, being in the parade.
I too wanted to ride on a beautiful black horse alongside my Aunt Frances. Through this conversation with my aunts, a couple of things struck me. Rodeo has always been about community and pulling together. Seeing my aunt riding helped me realize you could be both beautiful and strong as a black woman. Learning how to ride a horse is a different kind of freedom and responsibility that creates great character. My aunts were all smiles as we talked and beaming with pride, talking about how as a community we showed up, showed out, and we had each other's back. For Focus Black Oklahoma, I'm Sondra Slade in Oklahoma City, doing an imitation of my aunt's rodeo queen wave.
Focus Black Oklahoma is produced in partnership with KOSU Radio and Tri-City Collective. Additional support is provided by the Commemoration Fund and Press Forward. Our theme music is by Moffat Music. Focus Black Oklahoma's executive producers are Quresh Ali Lansana and Bracken Clark. Our associate producers are Jesse Ulrich and Naomi Agnew. You can visit us online at kosu.org or focusblackoklahoma.com and on YouTube at Tri-City Collective. You can follow us on Instagram at FocusBlackOK and on Facebook at facebook.com/FocusBlackOK. You can hear Focus Black Oklahoma on demand at kosu.org, the NPR app, npr.org, or wherever you get your podcasts.
As you go about your morning routine, there are a few things that are a must. You brush your teeth, put on a fresh pair of clothes, maybe even try to eat something before rushing out the door. You are busy. That's why we started the KOSU Daily Podcast, so you can get all the news you need while you're on the go. Subscribe to the KOSU Daily Podcast today.